Hello, good evening and welcome to News 360. I am Portia Gabo.
And I am Martin Asiedu Date. These are the headlines for the next 1 hour.
News 360 Headlines is brought to you by Pepsodent Charcoal and Pepsodent Herbal.
EcoBank, Nero Prime Water.
Coming up tonight, Ghana's power grid faces renewed scrutiny after third major disruption in 4 months.
Also coming up tonight, Electoral Commission says it is ready for any constitutional referendum as Ghana readies to amend portions of the 1992 Constitution.
And later in the bulletin, President John Mahama announces March 2027 for the completion of first 700 Saglemi housing units, with 1,500 units targeted for completion by end of that year.
Later in business news, former Bank of Ghana First Deputy Governor says undercapitalization and weak governance left the country's banks vulnerable to the crisis, leading to the sector's cleanup exercise.
On the international front, Liberia charges former Vice President Jewel Howard Taylor over alleged drug trafficking and money laundering in major narcotics investigation. We have details of all these stories and more. We are streaming on Facebook and on YouTube and on 3news.com.
Let's begin with the energy sector, and Ghana's power grid is under renewed scrutiny after a third major widespread disruption in less than 4 months and the second nationwide outage in just 22 days. Gridco blames the latest blackout on a fault on the Akosombo Volta transmission line, while the Energy Ministry points to a still fragile temporary arrangement at Akosombo following April's switchyard fire. Noble Crosby Anand has filed this report.
Ghana's power system has suffered 3 major widespread disruptions in less than 4 months. The first came on April 23, when fire destroyed the control room at Gridco's Akosombo switchyard. The incident disrupted the evacuation of power from the Akosombo generating station, temporarily affecting more than 1,000 megawatts of generation and cutting electricity supply to part of the country. Ghana Grid Company later restored the plant using what it described as an emergency and improvised connection arrangement, while work began on a temporary control system. Then came July 29, 2026. At about 3:11 in the morning, Gridco reported a major disturbance on the National Interconnected Transmission System. Several generating plants tripped simultaneously, resulting in widespread power cuts across the country. Gridco activated its restoration procedures and announced a comprehensive technical investigation to establish the exact cause of the disturbance. But barely 3 weeks later, the system suffered another major shock. At approximately 4:30 Thursday morning, August 20, Gridco says a major fault developed on the Akosombo Volta transmission line. The fault caused generating units at Akosombo to trip automatically together with some thermal power plants. Once again, large parts of the country were left without electricity. That makes Thursday's incident the second major nationwide scale outage in just 22 days, and the third major widespread grid disruption in less than 4 months. The Energy Ministry says the latest incident must be understood within the temporary arrangement currently operating at Akosombo. Energy Minister Dr. John Jinapo says after the April fire, government had a choice between keeping Akosombo offline for several months while the control system was rebuilt, or restoring generation through a temporary arrangement.
When we had a major incident at Akosombo, after meeting the engineers, we had 2 options: either to shut the plant down and build the control center in its entirety, which meant that the plant would have been off for 6 months, or put in this temporal structure or temporal mechanism and restore the power albeit knowing that it will be a bit fragile. As minister, I had a decision to make, and I decided that we should go by the temporal measure whilst we put in place a permanent solution. And so engineers working around the clock have improvised a system to supply power from Akosombo. And for some months now, it has largely held. But because it's a temporal measure, occasionally when there's some frequency disturbance, it takes off Akosombo immediately to protect the system.
Government says work on a permanent resilient control system is expected to be completed soon.
But fortunately, the work that is being done to build the center or the control room is expected to be completed just next month. And so I would appeal to Ghanaians to bear with us. It was a very complex situation. We needed to think outside the box and come out with an innovative solution to hold power stability. It's true, today we had about 1 hour outage to about 1.5 hour outage for some parts of Accra and some parts of the country. But I can't compare that to having 6 months of Akosombo perpetually down. This phase is just a temporary phase. I'm sure that by next month, we'll switch back and we'll have a much more resilient power supply situation.
So, while GridCo and the Energy Ministry point to specific technical incidents, a fire, a system disturbance, and now a transmission line fault, the minority have maintained the frequency of the outages point to a much wider problem.
And the MPP minority will not allow this government to shelter its own incompetence behind the narrative of a single incident. The darkness Ghanaians are experiencing is not the product of 23rd April 2026. It is the product of 14 months of policy failure, institutional neglects, and the deliberate abandonment of the energy sector recovery framework.
And the consequences go beyond households sitting in darkness. When the grid goes down, water treatment and pumping systems can stop operating. Hospitals and essential institutions switch to backup generators. Businesses lose productive hours. Factories face interruptions. In the meantime, Energy Minister Dr. Jinapo says work is progressing to fully restore power to affected areas.
In a related development, the Minister of Energy and Green Transition, Dr. John Jinapo, is urging the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, the PURC, to intensify scrutiny of the Electricity Company of Ghana's commercial performance, warning that weaknesses at ECG could undermine the finances of the entire energy sector. Speaking at the commissioning of the new PURC office, the minister also called for tougher enforcement and a stronger regulatory presence beyond the announcement of utility tariffs.
We are making significant progress, but I would urge you to strengthen the regulation of your sector. I know sometimes as you strengthen the enforcement, you step on toes. But you have to step on some toes sometimes to ensure that you achieve your objective. Also intensify scrutiny of all the utilities, particularly their commercial performance. And when I say this, I zero down on ECG, because the ECG is the key link when it comes to the value chain in terms of the financial sector of the energy sector. Because if they don't get the money, it will be difficult to pay. I also encourage you that you let the consumer feel the presence of the regulator beyond tariff announcement. And like I said, you've been doing a lot, so I encourage you to do more. Also deepen stakeholder engagement. You don't operate as an island. And so build consensus, work with people. And finally, let's support industrial competitiveness, particularly in relation to the president's 24-hour economy.
In more news tonight, Ghana could be heading for another important vote next year. President John Mahama says a referendum on proposed changes to the 1992 Constitution will be held alongside the 2027 District Assembly elections. The Electoral Commission says it is ready for the exercise. In this report, Evelyn Tingma looks at preparations and the challenge of getting enough voters to the polls.
For many Ghanaians, the word referendum may sound familiar, but Unlike an election where people choose their leaders, a referendum allows citizens to vote directly on specific issues. Next year, Ghanaians could be asked to vote on proposed changes to some important parts of the 1992 Constitution. The vote is expected to take place alongside the District Assembly and Uni Committee elections. But there is a major challenge. For changes to entrenched provisions in the Constitution to pass, at least 40% of registered voters must take part, and 75% of those who vote must vote yes. Director of Research at the Electoral Commission, Fred Tete, says with voter turnout at District Assembly elections often low, massive public education will be needed.
We're going to do what we call the electoral education, which is somehow different from voter education, engaging the stakeholders to know what the referendum is about and then why people should participate. It's going to be a long way of voter engagement and voter education, because usually our local elections, district assembly elections, turnout are very low, on the average 33% over the years. And that means a call for a massive public education that will involve all stakeholders, the media, traditional authorities, religious bodies, if indeed we want some of these issues to go through.
He said preparations will also require a new legal framework, as the rules used for the 2018 referendum on the creation of new regions cannot be used for this exercise.
The new CI content will be determined by the issues that we'll be going for. What I've seen and I've read, we may have not less than 3 issues to go into the referendum. So what it means is that you have at the polling station about 5 to 6, 7 ballot boxes. So if the referendum issues are 3, 4, 5, that means you're going to have a long list of ballot papers that people are going to go into a kind of production chain in terms of their voting, the sequencing of the voting.
Fred Tete added that the Commission will also have to review and exhibit the voters' register so people can check their details and polling stations. Depending on the number of issues approved, voters could have several referendum questions to vote on, in addition to choosing their Assembly and Unit Committee members. The Electoral Commission says it has the people and experience needed to conduct the exercise, but it will need enough funding from the state for the logistics. 8 years ago, Ghanaians went to the polls to decide whether new regions should be created. Next year, they could be asked to decide on something much closer to the heart of the country's democracy, the rules of the Constitution itself. For the Electoral Commission, the challenge is therefore not only to organize another vote. It is to make sure that when the question finally reaches the ballot paper, Ghanaians understand what they are voting for and have confidence in the process. The clock is already ticking. Evelyn Tinkma, TV3 News, Accra.
Now, the Roads and Highways Minister Kwame Govins Agboja has called on the Bono Regional Security Council to provide maximum protection for the contractor working on the Wenchi Insako Debi Road. The minister says the contractor should and must be allowed to work without disturbance to meet the December 2027 completion target. He made the call at Sampa after inspecting ongoing rehabilitation works.
The project being executed by Judicial Company Limited forms part of a broader inspection of road projects across the Bono region.
Development can only take place in a peaceful place. We believe these sorts of development will also cement the peace we are all building in the communities. We only appeal to you that give all the necessary support and protection to the contractors and their staff to be able to have the peace of mind to do the work, because any semblance of insecurity would naturally drive them away.
The Roads and Highways Minister Govins Agboja expressed satisfaction with the pace of work and says continued monitoring will be critical to ensuring the project is delivered on schedule. The inspection also covered the 45.6 kilometer Sunyani Atroni Atrensua Road and the 80 kilometer Jinijini Sampa Road. For the Jinijini Sampa corridor, the minister says the road is particularly important to cashew farmers whose livelihoods have been constrained by poor road access.
We used this road some time ago. Truth be told, it was pathetic. We saw women piling sacks of cashew by the roadside. Meanwhile, when you keep driving for hours, you notice that you didn't see any car passing you. So the question is, who is coming to buy this cashew? How is this a single mother going to be able to recoup her investment in the farming she's doing? And the president promised that this is why we are doing this. It is not merely building road. It's to make sure that the farmers, the cashew farmers on this corridor would have better prices, be able to evacuate their cashew to the farm, sell, bring the money and develop, pay their children's school fees, build houses and many things. This is how we build a country, and President Mahama is doing exactly that.
Work on the 17 kilometer Sunyani Outer Ring Road is also progressing ahead of schedule, with the contractor confident of completing the project by next year. The minister reiterated government commitment to completing both new and inherited road projects, insisting that contractors will face continuous monitoring. For the Roads and Highways Ministry, the inspection goes beyond measuring how quickly projects are progressing. It is about ensuring that every stage of construction meets the required standard and ultimately taxpayers get value for money. Ibrahim Abubakar, TV3 News, Bono.
And away from the Ashanti region, mosquitoes may be small, but the dangers they pose can be deadly. Health experts warn that stagnant water, open gutters and other collections of water around homes can provide ideal breeding grounds for mosquitoes. So what can be done to reduce mosquito breeding and protect communities from the diseases they carry? Christabel Success Trevor has more.
Fight begins at night, but long before the mosquito finds its way into the bedroom, the conditions that allow it to multiply may already be outside. Open gutters, pools of stagnant water, uncovered containers, and even water trapped in discarded items. Health experts say these seemingly ordinary things can create breeding sites for mosquitoes. Dr. Paul Boateng is a public health physician and focal person for case management at the National Malaria Elimination Program.
Make sure that we rid our environments of mainly stagnant collections of water and even polluted water. And because mosquitoes breed in collections of water, we can bring down their population as much as possible, and that can help reduce risks of a disease transmission. We also have to make sure that we prevent exposure to the mosquito bites. So particularly in the night and in areas where we know that there are lots of mosquitoes, we try to avoid those areas. And even if we can't avoid those areas, we should be able to wear protective clothing like trousers, long sleeves, and all of that, be able to prevent ourselves from getting the bites. Or what we can also do is that we can use repellents by sleeping under insecticide-treated nets every night and throughout the night.
And while malaria remains a major concern, the threat from mosquitoes goes beyond malaria. The focus should be on reducing the conditions that allow them to multiply and transmit the disease, with national surveys showing parasite prevalence in children under 5 dropping from roughly 14% down to 8.6%. There is a need for a collective effort to internalize these successes.
The target is to make sure that we're able to eliminate all vector or mosquito-borne illnesses, including malaria and others that are transmitted by the mosquito.
And this is where the condition of our gutters becomes important. When drains are filled with refuse and water is allowed to remain stagnant, the environment becomes more conducive to mosquito. But who should be responsible for keeping these gutters clean? Engineer Richard Ametbo is the head of drainage at the Ghana Hydrological Authority.
I believe it is a collective exercise. It could be local authorities. It could be Ghana Hydrological Authority, depending on the angle at which you are looking at it from. The Ghana Hydrological Authority is mandated for that. Local authority, which is the municipal assemblies, also can.
Residents also have a role to play.
You, the individuals living in the communities, must also be a watchdog. If you see somebody who is dumping refuse indiscriminately, you have every right to report he or she to the municipal assembly for them to take an action on that.
Protecting ourselves from mosquito bites remain important, but reducing breeding sites is another part of the prevention efforts. Christabel Success Trevor, TV3 News, Accra.
Now, breast cancer is increasingly affecting younger women, with cases reported in women as young as 22. At the annual General and Scientific Meeting of the Breast Society Ghana, experts and survivors are calling for stronger national action and sustainable policies to close gaps in breast cancer care.
Experts say 60 to 80% of breast cancer cases are diagnosed late, increasing treatment cost and reducing survival chances. Stigma, financial constraint, and limited access to care continues to affect patients and families. President of the Breast Society Ghana, Josephine Nsafo, is calling for stronger referral systems and improved access to quality breast cancer care.
We need to also change our minds. If you notice something, say something. And breast cancer is curable when we get it early. It's true, treatment can affect your fertility to some extent, but most women, their fertility will recover and have children. So certainly, all is not lost.
Specialist at Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Dr. Marianne Dadze, is concerned about rising cases among young women, some as young as 22.
We see a total of about 2,500 new cases in my center. So we are seeing about 500 new cases just in the center. But then we are finding out that we are getting more and more younger patients now, and they usually come in very, very late and very advanced.
She says the cost of treatment and limited access to care also affect patients' ability to complete treatment.
A lot of times it's because of the financial toxicity. The treatments are expensive, and then there are other things like distance. They may stop the treatment at a point, especially when they come in the machine is not working and they have to go back. At a point they will just not come again. Other side effects of treatment that they are not educated well about, and because of all these things you have patients that are lost to follow up.
Deputy Presidential Spokesperson Hajia Shamima Muslim says the reality where women sell their properties to cater for their breast cancer treatment is changing.
A woman should never have to choose between feeding her children and saving her own life. A woman should never have to lose her home to pay for cancer treatment. And yet, this has been the reality for far too many Ghanaian women. But today I stand before you to say that that reality is changing.
For 50-year-old Dorothy Afenyo, her breast cancer diagnosis came as a shock despite undergoing several screenings.
I was doing the usual health screening. It wasn't picked up. And anything you see, follow up on it. Because when I saw the lump, I took it to one of our facilities and they just said it's nothing. But then one thing I would say that whatever changes you see in your body, pick it up and follow up on it. Maybe if I had followed up on mine earlier when I have seen it, maybe I wouldn't have to go through the treatment. But hey, at least when I found out, it wasn't just too late for me.
Now cancer-free, Dorothy is looking forward to celebrating her 50th birthday with her family and children. Beatrice Sowa, TV3 News, Accra.
In more news tonight, Chancellor of the University of Gold Coast, Bishop Gideon Titiofe, has urged newly graduated postgraduate students of the university to make ethics, integrity and diligence the foundation of their professional lives. He was speaking at the university's graduation ceremony in Accra, where more than 300 postgraduate students were awarded degrees after completing their programs.
Family, friends and loved ones gathered at the Gold Coast University auditorium as more than 300 postgraduate students celebrated a significant milestone in their academic and professional journeys. For many of the graduates, the ceremony marks the beginning of a new chapter as they take their advanced knowledge and skills into the workplace and wider society. Addressing the graduates, Chancellor of Gold Coast University, Bishop Gideon Titiofe, charged them to look beyond the certificates they have earned and let character guide how they apply their knowledge.
We live in a world where being an ethical leader is what many organizations need. And being a Christian institution, we think that be very ethical in the pursuit of your dreams. I think that you can do the right things to achieve right results. It's also the first graduation we are having since we were approved to run our PhD in business administration. We are offering flexible pathways for very busy leaders to be able to achieve their educational dreams.
Member of the university's governing council and keynote speaker at the ceremony, Professor P.K. Richardson, also highlighted what he described as the institution's distinctive strength.
You can be visible, people can know that you exist, and yet, you are not useful to them. So we want a university where we are not only visible, but we are relevant. People will actually say, if I want a degree, if I want an MBA, if I want to get educated, this is the place to go. That is what we want to establish.
Isaac Mensah is the valedictorian.
Having gone through a lot of schools in Ghana, I can say that UGC is the best. The subjects are not bunched up. And then in terms of affordability, you are given 3 options. So at least you have that flexibility.
You're still watching News 360 on TV3. Stay with us. Business, sports, entertainment are all lined up right after this.
Hello, my name is Pamela from Customer Service. Please revalidate your account by texting your Ghana card number to 0500,000 247.
Hey, Abili, wabadim.
Madam, give me the numbers behind your ATM card. I'm calling from the head office.
An email was delivered across to our customers this morning.
Confirm if this is your bank account. 100,100,100.
Thanks for sending your bank card details.
Send the OTP now to avoid cancellation.
EcoBank will never call, email, send an SMS asking for your PIN, OTP, bank card, or Ghana card details.
Don't get played. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Hello, please, I'm calling from Customer Experience Center.
Welcome to the latest in the world of business on News360. The Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy is calling for an upgrade of electricity infrastructure in the Volta Enclave to higher transmission levels of either 161 kilovolts or 330 kilovolts to meet rising power consumption in the area. The call follows the latest power outage recorded at around 4:30 a.m. on the 20th of August 2026.
The outage was attributed to a major fault on the Akonsombo Volta transmission lines, affecting power supply and prompting calls for urgent restoration efforts. Executive Director at SEMSE, Benjamin Insia, says upgrading the transmission system would help improve reliability and ensure the infrastructure can adequately support increasing electricity demand in the enclave. The demand has also renewed calls for a comprehensive technical assessment of Ghana's national grid to identify vulnerabilities and guide long-term investments in the country's power infrastructure.
They cannot continue to rely on a system that was constructed in the 1980s, which is around 69 kV. It is too low for them, and because of the low capacity in terms of evacuating this particular power to some bulk supply points around the area, it will always cause this cascading effect of large-scale outages.
SEMSE is urging increased investment to upgrade and expand Ghana's power transmission network, including parallel lines that can provide redundancy and help reduce the impact of system failures and outages.
It is incumbent on the Ministry of Finance, it's also incumbent on the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition to make sure that in the 2027 budget, there are certain allocations to critical infrastructure in the energy sector, especially in the transmission system or network. If you are not able to allocate such resources to support GridCo to upgrade its infrastructure, I believe that the grid will always come at a halt. And if the grid continues, it's likely also going to put a lot of pressure on thermal generation and also hydro generation.
And that'll be it for business on News360. But before we go, let's find out how the local currency is performing against the major trading currencies and the commodities market. Welcome back to the bulletin. And President John Mahama has announced that the first 700 housing units at the Saglemi Affordable Housing Project are expected to be completed and commissioned by 2027 March, with 1,500 units targeted for completion by the end of 2027. President Mahama made the announcement during a tour of the Saglemi Housing Project as work continues to complete the residential community.
A project he started during his first administration, but which has now become a pale shadow of its former self. It later became the subject of a criminal justice inquiry during the erstwhile MPP administration, involving former Works and Housing Minister Collins Dauda. The president highlighted some of the challenges encountered at the project after years of inactivity, including the theft of electrical cables, but assured that this would not happen again.
This was a vision that was started by Professor Atamils, and I came and continued it. Unfortunately, when government changed hands, there were some issues, legal issues, and the new government said they wanted to investigate, and so in the meantime the project stalled. Now the unfortunate thing that happened was, looters came in and stole everything, the cables, the wash basins, the baths, all the fittings, electricals, bulbs. They even took the telecom cables from underground and pulled them away and took them, and so it just left an empty shell. And eventually, the government agreed that the private sector should partner to finish it, and LMI were choosing to do it.
He said prospective homeowners should be prepared to take advantage of the opportunity once the official registration process begins.
The good thing is, if people don't register fast enough, you see all these industries here, all the way to Tema, those in the industrial area, Dawa industrial area, they will snap up all the houses for their workers. But they are available for people who want to move with their families here. And so when the portal is open to register those who are interested in purchasing houses, I'm sure that many Ghanaian workers and other persons who want to live in a beautiful estate like this would register. So there are very good things happening in this corridor. Happily, government is dualizing the road from here to Aflao. The first phase is being worked on. The second phase from Central University is just being awarded. And so you would have a fast road link. You also have, like he said, a rail link. The rail link will carry not only humans, but for the industries in the industrial park, their containers and other things from the Tema ports will come by the rail line.
Lawyer for Ofuasie Ayeribi, Member of Parliament Frank Davis, has questioned the motive behind the adjournment of former Ashanti Regional Chairman Bernard Ntwebo-Esiako's bail pending appeal to October, when it could have been adjourned to an earlier date during the legal vacation. Earlier, the Supreme Court set Friday to rule on the injunction seeking to restrain the specialized courts from sitting during the legal vacation. Lord Edward Sarret reports.
Member of Parliament for Ofuasie Ayeribi, Kojo Nkrumah, filed a writ at the Supreme Court challenging the decision by the Chief Justice to allow some judges to sit and hear criminal matters during the legal vacation. He sprang the Apex Court to declare the warrants issued by the Chief Justice as unconstitutional. Justice Gabriel Poamang, sitting as a single judge, adjourned the case after lawyers for Kojo Nkrumah and the respondents presented their arguments on Thursday, August 20. When the case was called, counsel for Nkrumah, led by Frank Davis, objected to the Deputy Attorney General as lawyer for the Chief Justice. He argued that since the Chief Justice was a defendant in the matter, he should have his own representative other than the Attorney General's office. But Dr. Justice Ramsay disagreed, maintaining that the Chief Justice ought to get his own representation only where there's a conflict between the position of a constitutional office and that of the Attorney General. He further noted that the general principle is that the Attorney General represents public officials, adding that Frank Davis had not provided any exceptional case warranting an exception in this instance. Justice Poamang then overruled the objection by Frank Davis. Moving the motion for the interlocutory injunction, the applicant's lawyer argued that it has been the exclusive practice of the courts that during legal vacations, only applications on urgent and non-contentious matters are heard. Opposing the prayer for injunction, Deputy Attorney General Dr. Justice Remsai indicated that the applicant had failed to meet the grounds for the grant of an interlocutory injunction. After hearing the submissions, Justice Pamang adjourned the hearing to Friday to deliver his ruling on the matter. Frank Davis questioned the basis for the long adjournments of the Wontumi Bill application pending appeal.
But even if she was indisposed, yesterday was when? August 19. If she was indisposed, may God grant her health and speedy one as such. Why was the case not adjourned to the following week or even to September, but in the vacation, 15th October? Because by her training, she knows.
Lord Idwasari, TV3 News, Accra.
Watching News 360, stay with us. It's now time for the latest in the world of sports.
The sports news segment is brought to you by Sasso Insecticide Spray and Quad.
Hello, good evening. My name is Ore Kwampofo, and let's get straight into it. Let's start off from the 32nd Ghana Football Association Ordinary Congress, which took place in Pram Pram earlier on Thursday. A number of keynotes were highlighted at the event, including headline sponsors for the Women's Premier League, as well as the construction of 10 mini stadia in the 6 new regions in the country by President John Mahama. My colleague Billy Shen was in attendance and filed the following report.
Second GFA Congress just concluded a few moments ago, and here are 5 key takeaways from the Congress that happened at the Ghana Soccer Center of Excellence in Pram Pram. The first part has to do with what the sports minister actually mentioned. Now, sports minister, that is Kofi Adams, mentioned that the president has approved an increase of stadiums that he intends to build from 6 to 10. And so he expects that 10 new stadiums will be built in the next few years to support Ghana football and other sports.
His Excellency the President, during his campaign, promised to build 6 mini stadia for the 6 new regions. I dare tell you that His Excellency has since reviewed that decision, and he is no more going to build the 6 mini stadiums. He is going to build 10.
Now, the second thing is about the Ghana Premier League. Last season, each team earned 1 million Ghana cedis before the start of the season, and GFA President Keto Kreku revealed that they are going to earn again 1 million Ghana cedis each before the start of the new season.
This year, for the season beginning 2026-2027, each of the GPL clubs would receive 1 million Ghana cedis each again.
Now, the third point is about the increase in prize money when it comes to the winners of the Ghana Premier League. Kato Kreku mentioned that that money has increased from the 2 million from last season to 3 million Ghana cedis. So the winner of the 2026-27 Premier League season will earn 3 million Ghana cedis.
The winner of the GPL will take home 3 million Ghana cedis.
The fourth bit is about sponsorship in regards to other leagues in Ghana football. Now, in the Women's Premier League, they have Goldfields Ghana as their headline sponsor for the next 2 years. And then also they would have KFC as their male sponsor, whilst the Division 1 League would have UMB as their headline sponsor for the next 3 seasons. So a very big one for the Division 1 League and the Women's Premier League. And now the last bit is about the Black Stars player that features Full Heart of Folk. I'm talking about Benjamin Asare. He is going to receive a brand new car from JAC Motors worth around $38,000 US. And that's because he's been adjudged the domestic-based player to play for the Black Stars in the past year. So a very big one for Benjamin Asare. Now, it's expected that Benjamin Asare and Heart of Folk and the other teams in the Ghana Premier League would begin to compete against each other in early September, with Adesat Productions remaining as the production hub for that competition as well. And we'll see how that develops in the 2026-27 season. Billy Shen For 3 Sports from the Ghana Man Soccer Center of Excellence here in Prom Prom. To women's football, where Ghana's Black Queens will face Ecuador, Uzbekistan and Papua New Guinea in the preliminary phase of the FIFA Women's World Cup 2027 playoff tournament. The Black Queens missed out on automatic qualification after losing 2-1 to eventual finalist Malawi in the quarterfinals of the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations. Ghana recovered from the setback by defeating Cote d'Ivoire 2-1 in the playing match to secure a spot at the Intercontinental Playoffs. The Black Queens will open their campaign against Ecuador in November before taking on Uzbekistan later in the same month. Ghana will then face Papua New Guinea in December to complete the preliminary phase of the competition. The 6-team phase will see the top 2 advance to the final phase of the playoffs, where they will compete for the slots at the next year's World Cup in Brazil, and those final playoffs will take place in February 2027. Well, my name is Ori Kwampo, and you can get more sports updates on our social media handles at 3 Sports GH. Entertainment news is up after this break.
Entertainment news segment is brought to you by GTP Lifestyle
and Napa Foods, Heaven Black Insecticide Spray and Coil,
powered by 3 Entertainment.
Good evening and welcome to the entertainment news segment here on News 360. My name is Noella Donko. Now, Ghanaian singer Dina has announced the release of her upcoming album, Becoming. And in an interview with 3 Entertainment's Naftali Ba, the singer revealed that she has been working on the project behind the scenes and says it is almost ready.
Not for money, but for you. If I get one last choice, I go still choose you.
Credited with several hit songs, Ghanaian singer, talented vocalist and performer Adina Thembi Ndamsi continues to push musical boundaries following the release of her last full-length album, Araba, in 2020. The award-winning singer has announced plans to release a new album titled Becoming. According to Adina, Becoming will feature 15 tracks and several exciting collaborations, including some first-time musical partnerships for the singer.
Yes, I have an album coming out, so it's coming out really soon. It's called Becoming. That's why I've been cooking it, so it's almost ready. You guys should watch out. It's a 15-track album, and it's got some very interesting features, never done before. So yeah, watch out.
How long have you been working on this project?
Since February this year.
With the project nearing completion, fans of the award-winning singer can look forward to a new musical chapter from Adina when Becoming officially arrives.
And now to some more stories. Ghanaian alternative R&B singer and songwriter Tower has earned a nomination for the Rising Star Award at the 2026 African Music Magazine Awards, that's the AFRIMA. Now, the nomination puts Tower in the company of 7 other emerging acts from across Africa and the diaspora. It's a notable nod for Tower, especially considering she only began her recording career earlier this year. She made her debut in February with Green, an introspective introduction to her alternative R&B sound, before following up with Wildflower, a more emotionally open record that further revealed her songwriting range. 2 releases in, Tower is already beginning to attract attention beyond Ghana, with her AFRIMA nomination adding another significant milestone to what is still a very young career. Now signed to Kujenga Management, Tower now has a chance to take home the Rising Star Prize when AFRIMA Music Fest takes place on September 12, 2026, at Annette Strauss Square at the ATT Performing Arts Center in Dallas, Texas. And that's it for the entertainment news segment here on News 360. My name is Noella Donko.
Thank you so much, Noella. On the international front, Liberia has charged former Vice President Joel Howard Taylor with drug trafficking, money laundering, and a range of other offenses as part of an investigation into an alleged transnational narcotics network. She was detained on Wednesday before being able to board a flight at Roberts International Airport in the capital, Monrovia. Police Chief Gregory Coleman has linked her to the seizure last month of cocaine valued at $317 million. The 63-year-old politician has yet to make any public comment about the allegations. Howard Taylor went into politics after her now ex-husband, former President Charles Taylor, left power. George Weah later picked her as his running mate, and she served as his deputy during his presidency from 2018 to 2024. She faces charges including unlicensed importation, sale and transportation of controlled drugs, illicit trafficking, criminal solicitation and criminal facilitation. Police have charged 3 foreign nationals also.
And that's how we bring the bulletin to an end. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Martin Asiedu Date.
And I am Portia Gabo. Do join Africa at 10 p.m. for Ghana Tonight. Good evening.